So, welcome everybody to this little exploration in embodied boundaries. So, this is just something that I wanted to share with everybody. I think it's a really great conversation to be having, and I hope that we can kind of actually be in conversation really easily with this. The process today is going to be, a predominantly somatic exploration with conversation and a little bit of kind of whiteboarding to sort of flesh out the sort of philosophy. So I'll start by just introducing myself. Lots of you know me and some of you don't. My name is Molly Tipping and I am a Feldenkrais practitioner. I am on the lands of the Whadjuk Noongar Nation in Perth, Western Australia. And I also have been doing a lot of training in consent-based work. And the kind of lineage that I'm following is a lady called Betty Martin, who is the originator of Will of Consent. And then I've also been doing some extra training through the International Directors of Intimacy, Consent and Direction, which is more to do with acting and film, because that's where I work at a university with. So I'm going to be drawing from sort of Feldenkrais. I'm going to be drawing from Betty Martin's work and also kind of the work that I found just through the process of turning up to these questions with my clients. And Jennifer Jamieson, who is my co-host today, is a colleague, and she is a performance artist as well as a counsellor. She has been a good friend of mine for a long time, and we have worked together in many kinds of contexts. And she's also very interested in this work from a perspective where she has her qualifications. So, welcome to everybody. What I thought we'd also just start with is to acknowledge that actually in a consent conversation or in an embodied boundary conversation, that the Indigenous peoples of Australia and also throughout the whole of the world, that in my understanding is that they have been engaged in these conversations of boundaries and consent for a really, really long time. And that as an English Australian woman, that I am coming to these, conversations very, very late compared to many of the cultures around the world who have actually been, really established practices around this. That being said, that I feel like we are in a revolution for our culture to go, actually, we need to do this better. We need to start being really deliberate about how we inhabit our bodies and how we actually relate to each other in really consensual ways. So it's kind of a very, very old concept that many cultures have been doing for a long time, and B, a very new concept that we're all kind of going, yes, this is so important. We want to really spend time with it. So, I think that's pretty good. I thought maybe what we'll start with is we all just pull up the chat box and we can just drop into the chat box sort of where we are at the moment. And that's a kind of broad question, which could be where I am in my body, how I'm feeling kinesthetically, how I'm feeling emotionally, where I am in my space at the moment, what I can see or the room I'm in, where I am in the country that I'm in, whatever you like. And you can just type in like one thing, press enter, and then you can type a few things in. So we kind of all connect with each other and go, oh, these people are here, and, yada, yada, yada. Great. So if you pull up the chat box and then you can type in something about where you are. Also maybe the time of the day and just the weather, anything that sort of, helps us to locate each other in place and time. Beautiful. On my couch, humid, raining, beautiful Mexico, Melbourne, 11:30, 8:30 at home on the East Coast, in your jammies, that sounds great. Maryland, by the ocean, in office, meant to be working maybe, at home. Sun setting, beautiful, looking out a window at a flowering grevillea. Amazing. So I'll just kind of talk through the timeline a little bit as all of these little bits are coming in. Beautiful. So the timeline is going to be that we're going to start with somatic practice. So we're going to actually sit and stand and lay down and kind of get into our bodies. Coffee, breakfast, brilliant. And then we're going to come back to the computer and we're going to be doing a little bit of conversation and whiteboarding together. That will lead to a little bit of discussion, question and answers. And then Jen and I are going to show you something that we're going to prepare for. We're then going to take a break. And then we're going to come back and we're going to put these ideas into an experience where we've got another person to practice with. And then we're going to finish with somatic practice and some question and answering. So let's take a little moment to look around our room and just sort of sense into, okay, hopefully you've got your mat set up. We're going to start sitting, but if you maybe take a little moment to set up something on the floor where you can move a little bit and somewhere where you can stand. Take whatever time you need. Beautiful. Okay. So we're going to look at this conversation around boundaries as well as limits. So depending on the kind of conversation that you'll be involved in, the word boundaries might be used or the word limits might be used or another word might also be kind of used. And they're sometimes interchangeable and they're sometimes really distinct. So we're going to look at this question around boundaries and limits in a number of different ways. So to start with, we want to just consider that boundaries are essentially the edges, the container of us. Okay, and so when we're looking at consensual conversations, they're really talking about that I inhabit a very clear space in matter on earth that I can kind of say, oh, this is me, like I'm here in this body. And so take a moment just to sit back and get comfy in your chair in whichever way suits you. You can stand if that's more comfortable. Of course, you can also lie down. So you just take a moment just to be like, okay, how am I going to settle into this? And I want you to start to get a sense of your whole body. So really sense you as this fleshy, alive being that is in your body. And as we go through this exploration, you can use your imagination, but I'm also going to invite you to use your hands. So take a moment to start at the top of your head and just to really get a sense of, okay, so this is the top of me. And you could imagine those edges, or you can use your hands to actually place your hands on your head. And I'd encourage you to close your eyes so that you really slip into your experience and just be like, okay, so this is my head. Is it smaller? Is it bigger? Rounder or bumpier than I might have thought it to be? And you can take a moment just to kind of use your hands just to feel your edges, feel your container. You can use your fingertips, you can use the palms or the whole of your hands. And you might even like to just stay with one hold. You really get this sense of, here, okay. So here's me, I'm here. This is my home. This is where I actually reside. And we're really just taking some moment to locate ourselves in our flesh, in our body. Sometimes we have a sense that we are out there, we're sort of out with our thinking selves in some kind of imaginary space. And we really want to go, no, I am here. My thoughts, my emotions, me, everything about me is contained here. And we can kind of, sometimes as I say that, I might think, oh, but spiritually it's maybe not that simple. But what I've really found over the years is that when I locate myself in my body, that I really get a sense that my thoughts, my feelings, my spirit, my soul, my me is here. You can move down around your belly, around your pelvis, around your legs. When I really get that sense, oh, this is me, this is actually when I feel the most connected to spirit. Because it feels somehow in an ironic kind of way that the more embodied, the more present, and the more centered within myself, physical self that I become, then the more I am able to connect with that expanded self in a way that feels true and not kind of an imagined experience. So as you're sensing your edges, as you're taking a moment, you might rub, you might squeeze, you might press a little bit. Also start to notice the weight of you, that you weigh something, like you're actually matter on earth. So sense your weight. Sense the presence of gravity drawing you toward Earth's center. Sense where your edges, touch the edges of the surface that you are sitting on, the surface that you are lying on. That we go, oh, this is me and this is not me. And you may have a sense that your clothing is you, or it is on you. Start to make a few little adjustments so you get comfortable, a little bit more comfortable than you are. That you sense your weight, your shape, your breath, and you ask the question, can I get comfortable in my skin? How could I get a little bit more comfortable? That I could rest within my own body upon the earth. Where would I lean back? Where would I tip? Where would I elongate or stretch out? Where would I settle? Maybe you find yourself leaning into a little asymmetrical shape. So just settle into the comfort of your body, the shape, the boundaries of you, the weight of you in contact with all the surfaces that you are in contact with. And then take a little moment to make an adjustment to come down onto the floor. Somewhere where you can lie on your back. Just feeling how you make that transition, and there's no rush. We're really going to just allow ourselves to move in simple, easy ways. Beautiful. And continue with that question of me, my edges, my boundaries. Where am I located? And make yourself comfortable on your back. You may like to have a little bit of something underneath your head. You may like to have your legs bent or have them out sort of long on the floor. And when you feel settled, start to roll your head a little bit from one side to the other. Just allow the head to roll and then come back. And you just feel how easily does your head roll a little bit. And you might start to notice that your head prefers rolling one way. There's a real sense of, oh, this feels easy, this feels comfortable. And so we're not aiming for symmetry. I really want you to start to sense into where is the comfort and where is the ease. And allow your head to just tip a little bit and return. And see if you can find the easy range with which you roll your head. Notice what tells you to turn back. What do you pick up in your nervous system and in your physiology that says, oh, I've gone to the left and now it's time to come back. I've gone to the right and now it's time to come back. So we're sensing a limit or a choice to come back. Is it a kind of change in your breath? A little activation of the musculature, a little tightening? Do you feel a pain response and then that tells you to turn back? Or is this just where you turn your head whenever you look to one side or the other? If you have your legs bent, let them go out long, and if you have your legs long, bend them up, and let's just see if this changes anything. Again, just rolling your head a little bit from one side and just noticing what in you says, come back. That's far enough that way. Come back. Is there a tightening, a breath hold, or maybe a thought or even an emotional experience where your body says, that's far enough? Start to turn your head, and if you've been sticking in quite a small range, allow yourself to turn a little bit more one side and the other and see if you can feel a point where your body says no. It says, that's too far. And what is it that says that's too far? You might have already been going to that place, but if you were staying in a kind of really comfortable, easy range, turn your head until you feel a sense of your body saying, no, that's enough. It might be a tightening, it might be a kind of funny feeling in the belly, it might be a little quickening of the heart, it could be a breath hold. It might be something in the chest or the spine, not even necessarily in the head. And then pause, bring your legs back, and then slide your legs up to a bent position if they're not bent already. And explore this same question with your pelvis. So you start to roll your pelvis a little bit from one side to the other and see what is it that inspires you to come back. We want to spend time with this kinesthetic decision making that is built into our systems. To really start to be like, oh, actually, boundaries and limits, they exist kinesthetically within me. There's something that I'm doing unconsciously perhaps that says, oh, that's far enough, and then I come back. And with the legs and the pelvis, it might not be a tightening. It might feel like you're about to fall. And there's a feeling of, oh no, I'm going to fall. And so we want to pull the legs back sooner. But see if you can feel in yourself, where is that limit? Where is the range where your nervous system says, ah. And if you're finding that really kind of comfortable range of going and returning, you can start to explore with, is there a difference between a comfortable range where I go and come back, or is there a feeling where I can actually really sense my body says, no, that's too far. I actually really don't want to go there. And is that a tightening? Is that a nauseating feeling? Is that a pain or a change in breath where it goes, no. And maybe you're like, well, I can't really find my no. And that's okay too. We're doing a very small movement and there may not be a really clear no just yet. But start to move. You can let your pelvis and your legs and your head and your chest, your spine all coordinate as feels comfortable. Start to move in a way that it feels like it's a yes. That as you move, there's this feeling in there that says, I just like moving like this. This just feels great. Something about the activity, the breath, the sequencing of the movement feels really lovely. And maybe it's not rolling side to side. Maybe it's stretching a little bit. Maybe it's bending, folding. But see if you can start to shift into moving yourself. You move in a way that feels like yes. It might be a wriggle, a roll, a turn. Sensing your skin and your muscles, your joints, your breath. Feeling into the comfort, the pleasure. Oh, the feeling that actually it's jolly great having a body. That if I was just a little fluffy something in the ether, I wouldn't get to have all these gorgeous feelings. Sense your yes in your flesh. Stretching and squeezing, moving and sighing, wriggling, shaking, settling. Holding, scratching. Move and rest exactly as you wish. And follow the feelings of your body. What do you want this morning, this afternoon, this evening? Oh. Just take one more moment to move the way you would like to move. And we're going to finish this exploration in standing. So in the next 30 or so seconds, maybe 60 seconds, you might even find that you are still really happy to be on your back. So please honor that. But we're going to find ourselves eventually coming up to a more vertical alignment. Now, if standing is not comfortable, please sit. We sometimes call this the semi-vertical position. we just take a moment to be not with the boundary of skin, the boundary of flesh, and to not be with the limits of within the body, the joint sort of limits so much. But let's come to stand or sit in a way that we feel ourselves standing over our boundary, our base of support. And you may want your legs close or far, and we can play with this. But take a moment just to notice as you stand the weight of you, the weight of your upper self, your middle self, your lower self over your feet, over your bottom, your pelvis. And listen and sense. Can you feel that your weight is a little bit more on one foot or one side of the pelvis? Slowly start to shift your weight a little bit so that more of it is on one foot, one side of the pelvis. And then come back a little bit. We're sensing our skin, we're sensing our flesh and our breath. But we're going to start to shift our weight a little bit from one side to the other. Feel the weight really settling down on that one foot, settling down on that one side of the pelvis. And notice in yourself what brings you back. What says that's too far? And maybe if you were playing in a really small range, you might actually extend that a little bit and see, is it a tightening? Is it a hold of breath? Is it a feeling that I'm going to fall? What says that's the limit? And depending on how much movement you have through your spine or your shoulders, your pelvis, your head, you might move quite a lot, or it might be quite small. Notice your eyes, notice your mouth, notice the thoughts or the emotions that are present as you get to those edges of your base of support. And then see what it's like to shift your weight a little bit forward, a little bit back. That you really feel the change of weight across your feet, you feel the change of weight across your pelvis if you are sitting. And you can still with this kind of forward and back movement, or you could start to experiment and just shift your weight into many different kind of places. Really get a sense of this is my base of support, this is my boundary, and I can move my body. I can shift my weight, but there's something about if I've got my feet here, if I've got my pelvis here, I am within a boundary that is contained. And there's a point where I'm going to step outside of that base of support. Yeah, great. If I keep going that way. So you can let yourself fall and be like, oh, that's the fall point. But see if you can pick up, when does your nervous system, when does your body say, come back? And what are the feelings that you're listening to? Beautiful. Take a little walk and maybe stretch and move in a way that feels comfortable, and then we're going to come back to the computer. This is maybe a good moment to get a little drink of water, if you would like to have a little drink.
I hadn't even thought of boundaries as being within myself, actually. I thought of them as being out there, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's what I really like about kind of the sort of Feldenkrais kind of aspect of boundaries as well, is that we really are doing a lot of boundary work in Feldenkrais, but we're doing it within our bodies. We don't necessarily do it in a relational context. And so what I've really found beautiful about the marrying of Feldenkrais with consent practices, because consent practices are about the relating to others, but Feldenkrais is really interested in the relating to self. And do I push past my own limits all the time? And actually, my body has limits and it has boundaries. And I don't need to go kind of imagining what a boundary or a limit is kind of theoretically. It's really present and really here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Great. Yes. Nora.
I am used to pushing through my physical boundaries a lot. When I feel discomfort or pain, just push through. That's the dancer in me. So it was really nice to actually kind of give myself permission to gently ease more so than perhaps I would have. Yeah, so I normally kind of push through a bit more, and I just gently eased through some tightness to feel it release. So that was really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Great. That sounds lovely. Ralph.
Yeah, that was a lovely exploration, and yeah, just a new way of exploring. Because of course I've done lots of Feldenkrais,
Yeah.
and I've done consent work and so on. But you're right that consent conversations are normally in relation to someone else, and I hadn't thought of applying, in a way, consent conversation with myself. And you use the word decision making, and again, that was a really nice concept to drop in to just to realize, yes, all the time, if I'm doing movements, I'm making decisions. That's fair enough, and really nice to explore that and to be aware of, okay, I'm just exploring the limit, and yeah, I loved it. Thank you.
Great.
I'm going to be using it. This will.
Oh, good. Absolutely right. That's great. We'll talk more about it when I come to visit you in Melbourne. Brilliant. So look, I think taking what everybody has said and just what the thing that's really important to me in this question of boundaries and the embodied particularly aspect is that we get to be in a conversation with ourselves every single day about how consensual am I being with myself? How am I pushing past my limits? And am I honoring, or am I living actually within the boundaries of me, or am I kind of living in some imaginary space? It's like this is it. This is me. I'm here, right? And within this has all kinds of physical, emotional limits that are real, and I can really tune into them and still achieve amazing things. But really honoring that actually my nervous system is talking to me a lot. So what I wanted to do now is to kind of take that physical feeling that we've played with and put it into a kind of whiteboard exploration. So I'm going to pull up a whiteboard, which is here. So what we're going to do here is basically I'm creating a little kind of boundary document. Okay, or a limits document probably would be maybe the better terminology. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to write in here a few things just so that we get a sense of what we're actually looking at. And I want to recognize that as I write these things, that yes, safety and comfort are, I'm going to link them together, but sometimes they're also not necessarily going to be linked together, and that's totally fine. Okay, I might change the color of that. Beautiful. And then I'm going to write in this outside one a few other things that sometimes are linked together and sometimes are not. But again, I like to kind of put these things together so that we kind of go, oh, no is not interested, or no is also danger. Yes is about safety and comfort, And we kind of make those two distinctions. So what I want everybody to do is to head over to the little whiteboard options and click on the T, which is the text. And to start with, can we write into the no section, or the not interested, or the kind of limits? That was the I don't want to do that. I'm not going to keep going further. There was a sense of anxiety or danger in the system. What did that feel like? So what was there that you went, oh, that's a no for me? So say no for me is a breath hold. Yeah, tension. Beautiful. Beautiful. Losing balance. Exactly. Falling is a really gorgeous way of going, oh, I feel like I'm falling, right? It's like, that's a no. Yeah. For me, it's nothing. It's like, I just feel like if my no is also like, don't want to do it. Like it's just a nothing feeling. Pain. Perfect. Absolutely. So, in Feldenkrais, we're really interested in going, actually, pain is no. Pain is, that is a turn back moment. Weird sense, not sure. Yeah, beautiful. See if you can capture that one, JJ, in some. Yeah. Yeah, it's like a confusion, isn't it? A real sense of like, oh, I'm just confused. I might even, for me, have be quite angry. I get a real sort of like anger kind of anxiety response for my no, for my danger. And you can start to think as we're going through this, not just of the somatic practice that we've been engaged in, but when you feel no in your body, someone asks you something, someone asks you to do something, what do you feel? Yeah. And where in your body? Is it in the jaw, the eyes, the chest? Is there a knot in the tummy? Yeah, totally. Yep. Disorientation, tightness in the chest. Beautiful. Headache. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep, totally. Vision can go really blurry, can't it? It's that interesting thing. You either kind of get that kind of fixated gaze, or you get this kind of like, your eyes just don't even work. And so as these things are being written down, there'll be elements where you go, oh yeah, that's me. I really feel that my no is a tightening, or I really feel my no is a numbing, or I really feel my eyes, get locked, or they get blurry. And each of us are going to have different experiences of our no, and different no's at different times. And so what we're kind of looking here is to go, okay, can we get really much more clear on the somatic experience of no? Because then that's actually going to help us to turn up to life and go, oh, I'm feeling that kind of tightening in my neck. I'm feeling that tightness in my jaw. My eyes are going blurry. Maybe that means I'm not feeling comfortable here. I'm actually feeling a little bit threatened. This might be a no for me. I might actually need to not be here right now, or I might need to not take up that offer. So let's go now to the yes. How do you know when someone says, hey, do you want to do this? Or you're engaged in something and you go, this is just yes for me. I'm just having a really great time. Light, absolutely. Reciprocal joy. Yeah. What parts of your body feel like they open up? What parts of your body feel like they get enlivened and activated? And so again, some of these things might be really familiar, like absolutely, that's exactly how I feel as well. And others, you might be like, oh, that's not what I feel when I'm in my yes. And that's totally great. And I really love kind of seeing everybody's together, because it really reminds us of, oh, yeah, right, actually, I do feel that too. In consent kind of conversations around boundaries and around our limits, we tend to have the yes, the no, and the maybe. And for some people, it's really much easier to just stick with three things. So what's my yes, what's my no, and what's my maybe? And I would say if you've got a really busy life right now, if you've got small children, if there's just lots going on, it is definitely much easier to be in the yes, no, and the maybe, which is basically the red light, the green light, and the orange light are the kind of three phases that we tend to turn up to. What does it feel like in my body? And maybe we'll feel kind of maybe I'm sort of a bit forward, I'm a bit back, I'm not quite sure, I'm indecisive, there's tension, but there's also movement. So we're kind of seeing these lovely interconnections of the both. As I say that, it reminds me that moving back. So, that kind of no is moving back. And the yes tends to be a kind of feeling of moving toward, or moving away, moving toward. Oh, yes, someone's put guilt in there, yes. Yes, exactly. Sometimes we can feel guilty when we feel yes. It's a fascinating thing. But one of the things that I work more with is I work with a kind of differentiation of maybe into two categories. One is curious and the other one is cautious. And I find that it's useful to actually make these distinctions sometimes if we've got time to actually process. When do I feel curious about something that's a maybe, and when do I feel cautious about something that is a maybe? Anything that hangs out in these spaces that is not yes and that is not no is going to mean that I'm engaged actively in a thinking process of like, oh, okay. Will I do this? Will I not do this? And so we're in a kind of a much more heightened state of nervous system activation. If someone says, hey, would you like to go get an ice cream? And it's Sunday and I don't have anything on, it's like, absolutely, yes. It's a really easy yes for me. Whereas if someone says, hey, would you like to, swim to Rottnest with me? It's like very easy no. Like it's just, I can just be like, I can feel there's tightness, there's unwillingness, there's disinterest. No. The more I'm clear on what my yeses are and the more I'm clear on what my nos are, then actually I'm doing a lot less thinking in life. When I'm in curious and cautious, I'm going to be using a lot more neural activity. And that's totally fine. There's lots of things in life where I need to be like, oh, I'm in this maybe space. But we want to start thinking about putting lots of things into yes and no as much as we can, so that we actually reduce the activation of the nervous system. But let's be curious about the difference between when I feel curious about something and when I feel cautious about something.
I think I'd say if I'm curious, I feel excited. If I'm cautious, I feel more scared.
Yeah, great. Totally. So there's something about that difference between feeling excited versus feeling scared. There's a very similar neurological activation of excitement and fear, but there's something that we can definitively pick up and say, oh, actually, I'm feeling a bit scared there.
So how I feel that is like a peripheral resistance, like almost like a sucking back.
Yeah.
As opposed to an open thing.
Yeah, totally. No,
and sometimes I don't know that I'm cautious and I don't know there's something, not very good about the situation, but I'm aware of this feeling of sort of restriction.
Yes.
Boundary.
Great. And that's really what we're trying to recognize, is that actually there are all these, experiences in our bodies that that we can actually start to tune into, and they can give us a kind of much more clarity. So exactly, so there's restriction, and then as you said, you're kind of, did you say sinking back?
Pulling back from it.
Pulling back. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. And if I think of kind of yes, no, curious, cautious, I think yes is moving forward or moving toward, no is moving away, moving back, and cautious and curious are leaning forward, leaning back, or pulling. There's like a subtlety. It's not as big, but it's definitely in that same kind of vein. It's like, oh, I'm sort of like, I'm leaning back now, or I'm leaning forward. What else? What's some different? Queasy, beautiful. So we're starting to feel, with cautious, we're starting to feel like, oh, this is heading towards my no. It's that kind of thing, like when we're doing a Feldenkrais kind of movement, we can go, oh, there's pain. That's definitely like no. But then as I start to kind of head in that direction, I start to feel like, oh, that's starting to feel a little bit of a tightening coming in.
Can I just comment on something?
Absolutely.
I just found when we did that movement exploration, the somatic exploration, that for me, the literally moving back a little bit felt more secure.
Yeah.
And literally moving forward felt a little like I was going somewhere I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
So, well, I appreciate the moving forward and moving back analogy. It was just curious because I actually found myself really finding that place back a little bit and feeling so secure and content, and it just released a whole lot of, you know, other things that were on my mind, worrying me at the time. Yeah, that's all really.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And I think that's a really beautiful distinction as well, isn't it? Because sometimes we're forward and we're feeling in that kind of like anticipatory kind of anxiousy sort of like, I've got to do. And settling back, it's almost, and that I've just put content into that yes space, because there is that something about yes being that I can be back in myself. You know, I can be in my body. I feel content. The moving back and the moving forward, might not be quite the right words, although sometimes we can feel like, oh, you know, my back is my no, my forward is my yes, but actually we could have the exact opposite as well. So curious is something, I suppose, that, you know, it's like if we think about the physiology of curious, you know, it's playful, you know, our eyes might light up. So we get this kind of, you know, activation in the musculature. There's a kind of readiness. But we also recognize that there's something about curious that is just, it's new, right? It's new, but interesting. It's like, oh, I haven't done this before, but I am interested. I feel cared for. I'm willing. I'm like, yeah, let's give this a go. So there's all these other looking for, listening. Yep.
Except you can be curious, and yet also something that makes you very cautious at the same time.
Yes. And that's where I think that we can kind of sometimes mash them together and say that curious and cautious is your maybe space. And, you know, so sometimes we can kind of mash curious and cautious together as one experience. It's a maybe. I need more information. I'm not sure about if this is going to suit me. Tell me more about it. Is it going to fit with my timetable? It's sort of when we're like, it's not a clear yes and it's not a clear no. So definitely sometimes they're really, you know, linked together. And I wouldn't say that we want to always be, you know, having curious and cautious as separate. We can definitely make them as maybes. But there's something I've found for me in distinguishing curious and cautious, because if they get mashed together, then I immediately go into an anxiety state, as opposed to going, oh no, actually, I'm just curious about this. I'm feeling, you know, like a little bit like, oh, I don't know, but I am willing and I am, you know, excited to give it a go. Does that make sense?
Oh, hugely. And I'm sorry, I'm butting in.
Good.
For myself, what I've seen in the past is that when they're mashed together, I'm easily, I lose my self-determination.
Yes.
I usually go with what the pressure is, as opposed to being able to listen to.
Absolutely.
What my thing is.
And this is ultimately my big interest, is I want to sense into myself and I want to be like, oh, I'm feeling something uneasy. Is it curious? Is it cautious? And I can actually acknowledge it and then like be decisive and say, oh, I'm cautious. I feel like I'm going to be pressured into doing this. Oh, actually, I'm curious. I just want to make sure I'm going with my favorite people. You know, so it's sort of like we start to be a little bit more like deliberate. Or because cautious very quickly can become no, and curious can very quickly become yes. So it's sort of recognizing, oh yeah, actually, this is really important to flesh out. Yeah, so trust, I think, is a really big one in terms of the distinction between cautious and curious. And why that's something that's really important is that sometimes we can be curious about something if we're with the right people and cautious about it if we're with the wrong people. Yeah. So it's about the context, often curious and cautious. And it's also about evidence. So generally with curious and cautious, I don't have any evidence. So I'm not like, I actually don't know what's going to happen. But with curious, the risk might be much lower, that if it doesn't quite work out, it's like, oh, that's okay. It wasn't, no one was going to laugh at me. No one was going to, like say something nasty. I wasn't going to lose a lot of money. So the cautiousness is also about the risk can be lower. Sorry, the curious can be about the risk is lower, but the cautious might be that there's a bit of a higher risk. It's like, actually, the risk is high. I'm concerned that if I do that, it might not actually work out that great. Or I'm also worried that people will then think something of me that then actually has a really an effect on my reputation. Yeah. So often the difference is, yes, around context and around perceived risk and trust. Beautiful. All right. So I'm going to bring us back into the room together. Brilliant. Okay, so one of the things that we won't do today, but I really want you to continue to think about as you sit with these kinds of questions is, what is in my yes? What is in my no? The more that we can put things into yes and no, the less sort of stress or anxiety we have because we're trying to work it out. And that could be including like places, people, like you could do one for your work. So which clients are yes clients? Where you're like, absolutely, I love working with that client. Easy, yes, totally fantastic. And which are my no clients? Like, actually, I don't really want to work with those clients. I feel anxious. I feel stressed. They just make me feel really tight and agitated. So we can put it there. You could do it for Christmas. You know, what's my yes Christmas going to look like? And what's my no Christmas going to look like? And then we go into the cautious and curious and start to kind of map those out. What am I willing to give a go on? Yeah, totally. And what am I like, actually, I think I might try and bail out of that one. Jen?
I agree with what you're saying, but I also noticed with the head turning and then afterwards you asking us about, well, where are the limits? And it's like, it's all in my head. It's habitual.
Yes.
So that seems to me to be a way of taking myself out of my body. The more that I put into habit, this is a yes, I can do this, or no, I can't do this, then the less I'm actually tuning into what my body's telling me. So that was my insight from that piece that I'm now trying to go, okay, so if in my body movements I put a whole lot of things in, yes, I can do this, and no, I can't do that, then I've stopped tuning in. Yeah.
And look, absolutely. I think that's a really good point, isn't it? We don't want to turn something into a written piece of paper and then impose that upon ourselves. You know, like, oh, but that's in my yes, so I have to do it. We always want to be in the kinesthetic experience of, it's a yes now. And I know so intimately my yes and my no that in this moment, I'm actually a yes for this experience, even though maybe I was a no for the last 2 years, because in my body, something feels yes about that. So you're right. I think it's sometimes useful to think about the writing process as a making visual the embodied experience. That you could write it down, but then throw it away. More that it gives you time to sit with something and go, I'm struggling with which clients or which job I'd like to say yes or no to. You know, and then you can just kind of play and put it in the boxes and feel into your body, knowing what yes feels like, knowing what no feels like, knowing what cautious and curious feels like. So it's more of a way of sitting with and adding words to. But absolutely, you do not need to write these things down at all, though there probably are things that you would kind of definitively say, oh, that's definitely a no and that's definitely a yes, you know, for most of the time. But absolutely, we don't want to turn somatic experience into limits we then impose on ourselves, because that's the opposite of what we're interested in, for sure. Comments you wanted to throw in? Yeah. Sue.
Further to what you were just talking about, when we started, I just was delicious. That's
Yeah.
the only way I can describe it, right?
Yes.
And I'm thinking, well, but I'm moving so freely, and oh, this is just gorgeous, you know. And then I realized that I was just moving from myself. I wasn't moving within a restriction. I wasn't trying to anything.
Yeah.
And it made me realize how much of my life is set around, or, you know, was what was printed is how it should, or what you must, or what you shouldn't, or what's expected, or whatever. And it was so cool. And then it helped, like, I had much more freedom in my body. I mean, my body's kind of pretty wrecked, really, but it was like, oh, I could do anything. So that was such a really clear example to me of how, if you are true to yourself, you have so much freedom.
Yes.
It's
I
like,
think
whoa.
Yeah. That's the thing I think that really is the big takeaway for me with all the Feldenkrais work, is actually the more that you just turn up to you, actually you just have so much possibility and so much potential. It's really quite incredible. Whereas when you turn up to all the impositions of ideas that, you know, I should do this and I should do that, you just create all this tension in your body. Great. All right. So what we're going to do, Jen and I are going to show you a little partner. So we're going to show you what we're going to set up for. We're going to take a little break after this little setup. Okay. So what's going to happen? I'm just going to swap my microphone. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically now do take this idea of feeling in our bodies, and you might, you know, in the break kind of like write a few things out. What is yes? What is no? Can I get really clear on this? Because the more that we know this, then the easier we can actually turn up to it. And then we're going to take this into a partner exploration. And so I'm going to stand, and because my laptop is not as high as I'd like it to be, I'm just going to kind of make it a little bit higher.
And so what we're doing now is just setting up the logistics for the partner activity. We're not doing the activity. We're just setting up what we'd all need to set up in terms of our space in front of our laptop and where our laptop should be in our space, yeah?
I can kind of like check, you know, do I have anything behind me that's a little bit, you know, problematic? And I just kind of, so that I can move forward and backward in a way that my partner can see me, yeah, the important pieces of me. Brilliant. Okay, so we've made some little rooms that we're going to send you off to so that you can have a little explore of these somatic experiences with another person. The main thing we might just take a little moment to do is just check back in, either kind of sensing the weight of your body, sensing the container of your body, the edges of it. So you might use your hands to actually go, okay, yeah, that's right, I'm here, and I'm here in flesh and matter. I weigh something. I'm here with my breath, and I'm here in the room. So we really just take that moment to just bring ourselves back into any somatic locating that we need. And then Jen and I are going to talk through this little exploration. So this is a standing and moving exploration, but if there's a requirement that you need to do it slightly differently, of course, chat with your partner and work out the options that you might do it. I'm going to talk you through, we're going to use hand gestures, and I'm also going to use my voice. So you can experiment whatever feels right for you. You might even actually do both. But what's going to happen is basically I'm going to set my camera up so that I can be seen by Jen. I'm going to move objects out of the way so that I can actually not crash into anything. And I'm going to have a little chat with my partner Jen and just say, you know, who would like to go first? So Jen, would you like to be the director or be the follower in this exploration first?
Sure. I'd like to be the director.
Fantastic. So we established the relationship. So Jen is going to direct me and I'm going to follow Jen. And I'm going to basically have Jen give me instructions to either move away, to stop, or to come close. Now, she can use hand gestures or she can use her voice, whatever feels comfortable for her. And I am going to sense in my body and I'm going to move forward and back in response to her instructions. Now, as a general rule, brilliant, thanks, Jen. As a general rule, I'm going to be responsive to Jen's in sort of instructions or directions, but I'm also not going to lose connection with my own boundaries and limits. And so if I'm going to bump into something behind me, or I actually feel really compromised as I get really close, I also want to honor my internal truths. Okay, but at the same token, I'm in the following role, so I'm going to really give Jen the opportunity to be in the direction role and to really feel what it's like to be in the following role. Okay, so I'm going to swap microphones now, Jen, and just do the.
And so for everyone else, this is the demo, so you can kind of sit back and watch and notice what comes up as Molly and I are doing this. And are we also going to swap directing? Molly?
Yeah, I mean, we can.
Okay.
I think we'll just do it very shortly so everybody kind of
gets
a sense of two different people doing it. Beautiful. So we both take a moment to sense our bodies, the boundaries of our bodies, our feet on the ground, our breath, and ourselves in space. And so I'm moving away and then I'm stopping when Jen gives me instruction to. And so Jen can feel in the process of doing that how it feels in her body and like, what does it feel like as I send Molly away? And what does it feel like as I bring her close? Can I sense those yeses, nos, curious and cautiouses in my body? Okay. And if I have a swap and I now become the director for Jen, so I stand in a position where I feel really comfortable and I'll demonstrate this time using my voice. I'll probably use my hands because I physically can't not move my hands when I talk. It's an impossibility. But I'm gonna demonstrate how we might do this with the voice. So if you can move back, Jen, moving back.
And I'm just adjusting because I'll notice that, I'll need my camera moved.
And then stop. And then move back again. And then stop. And then come forward. Stop. And then come forward. Stop. And then come forward. And then you can bend so I can see your face. Stop. Great. And so that's the practice. It is simply a moving away, stopping, and moving toward and stopping practice. And you can move away and stop as many times as you like. You can even have that person stop and really just sit with the feelings of what it's like to ask someone to stop, or what would I want to do? Do I want to bring them forward? And everything that we've done leading up to this point of feeling that somatic yes and somatic no, thinking about what it is actually, what are the words that I would use to describe that is going to be present, but we're experimenting now in the presence of another person. So when you go into your room, you just simply are going to decide who's going to direct and who's going to follow first. We did a very short version, so I would encourage you to spend more time with this. Really soak up the feeling of what it's like to be in this position of asking someone. And then we will swap, and then you can have a conversation with each other about what that felt like.
Good. Yeah, it's such a simple exercise. And like Rebecca and I were saying, we both we just used the gestures. We didn't use words, and I felt really safe doing it. But it was really interesting when we were further away, this kind of sense of disconnect, and it was like, oh, we're too far, and I felt like I was kind of like on the edge, which was really weird because I was just walking backwards. Yeah, so just real like it was a lot more powerful. But yeah, the gentleness, we're both quite gentle with our gestures and felt quite safe. And when we swapped over, I actually felt quite protective of Rebecca, like I'm wanting to make sure she was safe moving backwards and forwards, which is weird because strangely I actually like to push people doing these types of exercises and play a bit more, but I was felt more protective, I guess, because what we've been doing in the lead up. So yeah, it's really powerful. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. And I think, Jen and I were talking about this is, can be used in a kind of theatre play context, but really kind of starting with that gentle thing of, being in your body and really sensing your own boundaries and your own limits gently. And then you meet someone with that, you go, oh, okay. It changes it, doesn't it?
Certainly changes it. Yeah. It's great.
Beautiful. Any other little bits that people want to add? Another little, yeah, Rebecca.
I might just share on the back of what Narelle was just saying. It was interesting to kind of be the director for Narelle and to kind of like play with, like I felt like it was too far. And I was kind of like, I had this real sense of like when Narelle was quite far away from me, it felt really disconnected, but also I had like, almost like I described it as like a feeling of sadness, but I think it was maybe like lonely or something, like, and I had put you there. And so it was like this strange kind of like, we both could feel the edge, but like it felt strange to be the person who had like made the decision to put Narelle there. So I was like, come back. Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I love that. Like you're saying, you can feel the edge. You can feel that, I'm responsible in this relationship, and and I'm experimenting here, but I can really feel that it's a privilege to be in a relationship with you, and I don't actually want to create that distance. And all of those, as you say, Narelle, before, it's such a simple exercise, but it is just ridiculously powerful because you realize human beings want to be in connection with each other, and we really feel that's a great distance. I feel present with you when we're this distance. And now I feel like really overwhelmed by you, or I feel really like, no, we're not connected. It's really gorgeous. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I just found it frustrating to only be able to move and tell my partner to move forward and back. But I also felt protected and like I could trust her because she could only tell me to move that way. And I was limited by my physical space anyway.
Yeah.
So it was like an added layer, knowing that was, knowing the boundaries. But I also at the same time found it frustrating because it's like the yoga mat. It's something that frustrates me about yoga, that it's on this small mat. I wish we could just have I just want the whole floor sometimes to move and roll around, and I feel very constricted. It's one of my qualms. I feel really constricted, but also safe. Yeah.
Amazing. That's so beautifully said, isn't it? I think it's the truth, isn't it? Those limits are safe, but they can also be really frustrating. But I loved as well, Heather, where you said you felt that because of those limits, then being the person who was following, that really helped you to feel safe.
Mm.
And one of the things that I was speaking with my partner with was really that sense of that when we're really clear about what we're doing, and when we're really clear about me and I'm really clear in my boundaries. I know that I exist here and I know what my limits are. That the other person can then start to be really thankful. Like, I'm so thankful spending time with you because you know your boundaries, you know your limits so well. I'm not having to kind of, like second guess whether what you're saying to me is true, So there's something about the containment of the agreement between each other, but also that when I'm embodied, it's a gift to the people that I'm with. It really is. They're like, oh, she knows her limits. I'm not going to have to like protect her, even though, as Narelle, you're saying, we feel this tenderness for ourselves, which we extend to other people, which is totally gorgeous. There is something about relating to each other in ways where we are all embodied and we are all, working within our own limits and our own consent. It really is a very rich place. So what we will do is we're going to finish with a little somatic practice, which is a little solo activity. And this is just to kind of take this question, again, a little bit broader into the process of how we might sense all of this beautiful stuff we've been sort of lingering with in a kind of decision-making process. So this can be done sitting or lying down or standing. I like lying down because I'm just lazy and it's just nice to lay down, but you get to do exactly how you'd like. Beautiful. So yeah, take some time just to set up how you would like to set up. And if you're lying down, come to lie down on your back and you can have your legs bent. If you are sitting, come to sit in such a way that you're not too kind of sucked back in the chair. You're going to be a little bit forward so you've got some mobility. Great. So the disadvantage of lying down is your puppies think it's a great opportunity to give you a kiss. And so we just spend a little moment settling into ourselves, settling into our container, our edges, our me here. Getting a sense of the weight of our bodies on the floor and where our base of support is, which is really nice and big if we're lying on the floor. Like, I'm here. I'm contained within this beautiful base of support. And have your palms facing downwards. If you are sitting, just have your palms on your legs. And start to roll your head a little to one side. You just roll your head a little bit to one side. And then come back to your middle. And then roll your head the other way. And we're just allowing ourselves to just really settle into, this is comfortable for me to roll this much. And I sense the return. My nervous system is so smart and it says, that's enough, go back. And as you roll your head that way, can you turn the same hand upward? So if you roll to your right, turn your right palm upward. And then you roll back to your middle and your right palm can roll back down. And then roll to your left and turn your left palm. A little upwards as you turn to the left and then you roll back. And we're just going to shift from rolling a little bit to the right with the right palm turning up and then rolling a little bit to the left with the left palm turning up. And allow your belly, your legs and your pelvis to just be responsive and to move in a way that feels comfortable and natural with the movement of your head and of your arms and hand. Beautiful. If you're sitting, you just simply roll that elbow and hand out as you turn and look one way. Now continue with the movement, but this time we're just going to get a sense of how the whole of our body can really comfortably go that way and really comfortably go the other way, so we make it a really comfortable, enjoyable experience. Just find your comfort, your pleasure, what range feels really good for you, and notice the ease of the breath, the shifting of weight, and the feeling of moving and returning. And then the next time that you come back to your middle, pause in the middle for a moment. And I want you to consider that we can use this somatic exploration in a way to think, in a way to make decisions about things. So perhaps you've got something coming up today and you're like, will I do this or will I do that? Or perhaps it's simply a question of, will I spend time with this person or with this person? And if you imagine spending time with this person or that person, it doesn't have to be specifically that an event is coming up, but we could just put Martha and Bob on either sides of us. And what I'd like you to do is go back to that movement of rolling your head, turning your eyes, turning that palm and letting the rest of your body really enjoy and connect with that movement, and then coming back. But as you continue this movement of rolling, turning, shifting your weight, that we're now going to imagine something where we're curious about our yeses and our nos. Is it a yes to this? Is it a no to that? And as you roll, see if you can feel that if you imagine this activity, this person, this place is on your right, is there ease? Is there a little smile? Is there a soft, gentle breath as you roll that way? And if you imagine this place or this activity on the left side, is there also a smile or a change of breath? Or is there a feeling of falling, a tensing, a little panic? Your breath holds. And so you can just shift and just see, can you get from this incredibly intelligent being that is us, that we live in this really informative, fleshy body, oh, that's a yes. I want to go there. And that's a no. I don't want to do that. Now, if you're not sure, you can always swap the sides that you place those people on, or swap the sides that you place the questions on. And just check. Oh, if I imagine that person over there, oh, that is actually much easier. Just be with the container, the edge, the you. Be with the shifting of your weight, the draw of gravity's connection to you toward the earth. Where do you feel your limits? Maybe you can go a little bit that way, but you don't want to go a lot that way. Maybe you just want to roll right over and just like cuddle right into that idea. At some point, roll to your side, come up through sitting, and bring yourself up. to come back to the computer for a little finish. You can take a moment to stand, just be with that feeling. You might even just turn a little palm up or down and be like, oh, what about this? Oh yeah, there I go. I want to go there. I don't want to go there. Huh. And there's 3, I suppose, stages to understanding our yeses and our nos and to really living them. And the first stage is that we feel them in our bodies. We have to feel in our bodies, that is a yes, that is a no. I am curious, I'm cautious. And today's class really is about knowing that, going, oh, this is a yes for me. No reason other than it just feels like it is. And this is a no. I just don't want to do it for no reason other than I just feel that my body says no. That's the first stage. We must know our yeses and our nos, our curious and our cautious experiences. And then there's 2 more stages, and I suppose we would generally say that the next stage would be that we can articulate, I don't want to do that. I'd really like to do that. So we can actually put words to the feelings that we have in our experience of being a human. And then the third is that we can act on it. I am going to act on my yes. I'm going to act on my no. Now, for some people, action is easier than speaking. And so it's not necessarily that you will be able to speak it before you act on it. You might act before you find capacity to speak on it. But we really want to develop the capacity to go, oh, I feel that's a yes. And even if you feel it's a yes and you can't say it's a yes and you can't even act on the yes, that is not a problem because you're in the first stage of really honoring that learning process. It can be a little bit frustrating sometimes, but just know that that's the very first stage. It's a really important stage. And that you develop capacity to say yes and no and to act on your yeses and nos as it becomes more and more evident. It's just a no. I just don't want to do it. My body tells me really clearly and I honor it. Yeah. So if you feel a sense of conflict of like, oh, I feel like that was a yes, but I'm not allowed to do it. Or I feel like that my body's saying no, but I feel like obliged to do it. Know that this is a truth that is going to exist for all of us. But the more that we start turning up to, this is just my yes, and this is just my no, and I'm living in this being that is really clearly telling me, it gets easier and easier to then communicate and to take action on those truths. So if we unmute, and you can write in the chat box, or you can also just speak. What was that like doing that little exploration? What did you discover?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. I got what would appear a yes to some of the things I asked. Then my back began to hurt. So I'm thinking, okay, so there's levels to this, isn't there, of what I'm...
Beautiful. So exactly, if it's a new practice, it might not be just a really clear yes. And sometimes you have to keep doing it going, oh, it was a yes, but actually the more I do it, the more I'm going, I don't think that's a yes. I think that was like a little whimsical enthusiasm, but actually it's not sustainable. So it might be a yes for a moment, but it's not a yes for a long period of time. So yes, I think someone's written here, Jen, I need practice. And I would agree. This is something to spend time with in sitting, in lying. Just, is that a yes? Or is that a no? And like even the other day, a client said to me, I went to the beach and I thought I wanted to go for a run. And then I realized that I didn't want to go for a run. So we have this thought that's like, oh, I want to do this. And then if you just wait a little while and let it sort of settle, your body goes, no, no, I don't want to do that. What are you talking? It's a ridiculous idea. Or that we go, no, no, no. And then the body's going, no, yes, that sounds really great. I'd really like to do that. So there's a sort of an embodiment process that we have to kind of take time with our thinking and our feeling. And yes, I would say practice is fantastic. Yeah.
I just wonder if you could continue with the running example, because obviously it could be good for you to go for a run. Maybe you need to do that. What do you think about pushing yourself at going, no, I came here to go for a run. I can't have come all the way here without doing my run.
Yeah. I think
I'll feel better afterwards.
I think it's a total choice. We can definitely be like, you know what, I'm going to go for a run. Like, that's what I'm going to do. But it would also come from a thing of like, my body's feeling heavy. My body's feeling like it wants to do something. And there are times when we're conflicted. You know, it's like, do I want to? Do I not want to? I think what we can recognize is if we are someone who constantly pushes ourselves and we just feel like our body is going, no, 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 I don't care that apparently running is fantastic. I'm fighting you on this. I don't want to do it. Then we're overriding physiology all the freaking time.
And maybe practice then being kinder to yourself for honoring that no.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Kindness in lots of measures. And maybe it's a thing of like, well, I want to run for a little bit and then I want to roll around in the sand. And then I want to run again, and then I want to walk. Like, there's no rules necessarily about how we need to be in the world. And sometimes, you know, yes, there's this tricky thing of like, sometimes I say I've got extreme self-compassion. It's really dangerous. Like, it's definitely a dangerous thing to have extreme self-compassion. I will acknowledge that. But I'm also just really happy. So there's sort of this thing of like, yes, I don't necessarily thrash my body, but I also feel those moments where I'm like, you know what? Like, I feel like I'm going to go for a run. Like, but the reason that I don't want to go for a run is sometimes that I'm like, oh, I don't want to go for a run. It's actually a thought. I've got a young, agile body. It wants to go and do stuff. You know, like we sometimes make ourselves move under like a whip as opposed to remembering that the body loves to move. It absolutely loves to move. We are on this earth to move and dance and leap about and have a great time. And so it's a different kind of feeling of going into activity. Does that make sense?
That's really helpful. I used the exercise that we just did to check in with the people that I want to spend my very limited time with. Especially at this crazy time of year. And I already knew these things, but my body confirmed which were yeses and nos and maybes. So that was good.
It's really good, just to have that body confirmation of like, oh, actually, that is definitely that's a no. Good. We're all in agreement here. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
No worries. So maybe if we just finish with in the chat box something that you go, that's useful for me. I can feel the resonance of that, and I'm going to take that away into the life that I'm living. Just pop something in there, anything from what we've done. And fascination with the hands and the arms to understand the conveying of self and communication. Hands are really, beautiful. Remembering to check in with what my tongue is doing. Absolutely, tongue is very telling. Feeling, kinesthetic boundaries, beautiful. Yeah. Would benefit more self-appraisal. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that's right, Jen. I mean, you'll get the recording and you can go back over it. Yeah, these concepts are new. I've just introduced a whole heap of stuff here. And they take time to go, oh, is this true that this could be something that is real for me? Blending conversations with self as well as with consent and with others. Moving closer and away, paying more attention to my own experience and not theirs. Absolutely. The more that we connect with our own experience, we do justice for ourselves, we do justice for the people we're with. Mind is very full. Beautiful. So we're going to finish with just a little goodbye practice. If everybody takes off their microphones, so we unmute. Take our hand somewhere in our body, on our chest, on maybe on the back of our neck, maybe in our hair. We just take a little moment to say, you know what, this is where I want to put my hands. And if you don't want to put your hands anywhere, don't put your hands anywhere. Just put your hands somewhere. They might just be stretched out. And we're just going to take 3 beautiful breaths together. Look at the screen, look at all the beautiful humans that are here. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all for being interested and curious about how we can live better with ourselves and with other people. You can look at everybody in the eyes. You might move, you might wriggle. And then we're going to do a little cute thing where you bring your hands up in front of you and take them to the edge of your screen so that you can touch the person next to you virtually, like just to the edges. That's it. And we do a little high five wriggle with our friends. Go to the edges. Yeah, that's it. We're like, oh, hello, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. And oh, exactly. Top and bottom. Don't forget the people below and up. That's it. Up and down. And exactly. This is our boundary, isn't it? Like here. Oh. And then we can touch all the other people in their little boundaries. Thank you, everybody. I hope, I'll send you the recording, and I hope this has been really useful and interesting to implement. And I look forward to seeing you or not seeing you in your journey of your wonderful lives.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Molly. Thanks, Jen.
Everybody.
Thank you, Jen. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jen. Well done. High five to JJ. Woo, 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 woo,
Welcome.
woo, woo.
Lovely to see folks I know, Lee and Beck.
Yeah. Beautiful. Bye, everyone.